used to believe that life happened outside of him, that events were independent and reality was just a fixed stage where he played a part. But gradually, he began noticing subtle patterns, repetitions like echoes, even when the environment changed. The same roles, different faces, the same lessons, new voices. Then the question appeared, quiet, unsettling. What if the world was just reflecting what he himself was putting out? Was it a trick of the mind, or an ancient key that modern logic forgot how to use? What if reality was more like a field than a fixed form? It was hard to accept. It felt too naive, too mystical, but that idea wouldn't leave him, not because it made rational sense, but because it resonated with something inside. And the more he observed, the clearer it became. Things around him weren't random, they were mirrors, vibrational mirrors, reflections of a field he was constantly feeding. And that field, it came from the core. Surface level changes weren't enough. The vibration behind all actions had to shift, because gestures can lie, but vibration never does. The core, not the physical heart, not the brain, but a hidden nucleus, an intimate frequency that seemed to shape experience. When he felt peace, life flowed. When he carried fear, everything jammed. It wasn't just psychological, it was energetic. Reality responded, not to his words, but to his field. That's when he realized the universe is always listening, but it hears what you radiate, not what you want. Your inner state is your true prayer, constant, continuous, broadcasting like a secret antenna to the cosmos. In moments of deep silence, with no masks or defenses, he could feel that core, like a pure note, a stable frequency. It was as if the universe was tuned to that note, and any shift created dissonance in his life. He began asking, what am I radiating right now? What reflection am I generating? What if everything I'm facing is just the field trying to align me again? Not as punishment, but as a reminder of the frequency he'd lost, one that shaped everything around him. If you've ever felt like something outside you was giving back exactly what you tried to hide, leave a comment. I'm tuning my inner frequency. This act isn't just engagement, it's a silent commitment to the vibration you're about to embody, because the universe, even in silence, responds. And that silence isn't empty. It's a space full of hidden meanings, where reality listens before you even choose to speak. Not everything invisible is unreal, and not everything visible is true. That was the lesson he was learning from the field. The field didn't need to be seen to be felt. It moved through people, places, decisions, vibrating in silence, arranging events like pieces on an invisible board. And when the field was out of sync, life became chaos disguised as coincidence. It was as if synchronicity had a secret code that only revealed itself when the inner world grew quiet enough to decode it. There were days when everything flowed with almost no effort. Calls came at the perfect time. Unexpected meetings brought the exact message he needed. But there were also days when nothing worked, everything stalled. Time seemed against him. Observing these contrasts, he realized it wasn't the world changing, it was him. It was the field he carried. When he was centered, the universe flowed. When he was disconnected, reality reacted like a body with fever, trying to warn him something inside needed healing. Synchronicity stopped being magic and became a metric, a precise signal of vibrational alignment. The field behaved like liquid glass, reflecting either coherence or fragmentation, and he understood. Coherence wasn't about perfection, it was about honesty. Inner dissonance is born when the mind says yes, but the heart screams no. That inner noise sends mixed signals into the field, and the universe responds with equally confusing experiences. He realized adjusting the field was like tuning an instrument. Tiny tensions, subtle releases, barely noticeable shifts. But the final sound, the reflected reality, was completely different. So he began practicing daily. Before reacting, before deciding, before judging, he'd check his field, breathe, feel what he was putting out, then act. It became a new way of living, where vibration came before action and coherence before reaction. If you've also noticed reality shifts when you realign, leave a comment. The universe follows my center, because this isn't just a belief, it's a silent practice of vibrational self-awareness. And that small recognition can change the way you walk through the world. Because in the end, reality isn't something you face, it's something you broadcast. And every honest emission creates a life that echoes that frequency back to you. He spent years trying to figure out why some things kept going wrong. He acted with good intentions, but the outcomes twisted. People reacted badly, doors closed. And then it hit him. The universe wasn't responding to his apparent intentions, it was responding to what was behind them, the true, often unconscious vibration. The field didn't judge, it simply echoed. It didn't reward or punish, it reflected. Like a quantum mirror, its only function was to return with mathematical precision whatever he was radiating. No emotion, no opinion, just energetic accuracy. That realization shook him. He had to admit that behind many noble desires there was still neediness. That behind some kind words there was fear of rejection. The field wasn't impressed by gestures, it responded to the real frequency. It was an uncomfortable truth, but also freeing, because it meant he no longer had to convince anyone of anything. He just had to align what he felt with what he radiated. Inner congruence became his new compass. When he started acting with this new awareness, reality stopped being unpredictable. It started to follow clear patterns. Whenever he radiated clarity, he received clarity. When he vibrated doubt, resistance followed. And when he tried to force things, the field echoed back with noise. It was as if the universe was saying, I don't understand words. I understand frequency. That changed everything. He stopped negotiating with life and started listening to it in silence. He also realized there was no point trying to manipulate the field. Many fall into the trap of positive thinking as a formula, but the field doesn't follow formulas. It follows coherence. Pretending to shine while hiding your shadow only casts a bigger shadow, and the field reflects that too. Real change began when he welcomed his emptiness. No masks, no performance. That's when the true frequency started to shift, and with it, everything around him. If you've ever noticed the universe giving back exactly what you hadn't yet dared to feel, leave a comment. The field responds to my true vibration, because the shift only begins when your energy becomes real. Not perfect, just honest. And when that happens, the world stops being random and chaotic and becomes what it always was, an exact mirror of what pulses in silence inside you. He understood that thinking positive wasn't enough. What mattered was coherence, but not the surface kind. Being coherent meant being aligned, feeling what you think, acting on what you feel, trusting the actions that follow. When that triangle clicked into place, his frequency stabilized, and life started flowing again. Everything out of sync vibrated with dissonance. And reality, as always, returned that dissonance with precision. It was like the universe didn't care for appearances. It only mirrored real vibrational harmony, even if imperfect, even if quiet. That coherence didn't come from affirmations, it came from silence. In silence, he found the fine-tuning. He'd stop, breathe, feel. And in that pause between thoughts, the field would realign. Because the core isn't found in noise, but in conscious stillness that observes everything. That's where the frequency of presence arises. The present isn't just a moment in time, it's a state of vibration. And in that state, the field hears with clarity. Presence is vibration without interference. It's the state where the field responds most accurately. That's why, in the moments when he was fully there, no escape, no judgment, no anxiety, answers came immediately. Signs appeared, connections flowed. It was as if the universe whispered, "Now I can finally hear you clearly." In that state, he realized that life didn't need to be pushed. It just needed to be fully inhabited. But there was a catch. Presence wasn't constant, and whatever he radiated during moments of distraction also got reflected back. So he learned to forgive himself, to let go of the need for perfect alignment. What mattered was gentle awareness, a steady return to center, a daily commitment to the field, even in the midst of flaws, because even mistakes, when embraced, generate aligned responses. The universe doesn't ask for perfection, it asks for truth. And truth is a current, not a cage, a living note pulsing with authenticity. If you've ever felt the clearest answers arrive only after you finally stopped, write in the comments. In presence, everything is revealed. Because it's at that still point within you that the universe finds the stability to reflect your deepest truth. And that point doesn't need to be created, it's already there. It just needs to be remembered. With each breath, with each silence, with each return to the center, the world begins to speak clearly again. Because that's when you stop asking and start radiating. He began to notice something even more subtle. Not every vibration he emitted was truly his. Many of the feelings he carried came from outside. Fears that weren't his, beliefs he inherited. Collective anxiety disguised as personal thoughts. The field, after all, wasn't just individual, it was also collective. And being awake meant knowing the difference between what came from his own core and what had been installed without permission. The modern world vibrates in urgency, in lack, in overstimulation. That collective frequency creates a dense layer over the personal field, and those who don't notice it get caught in the fog, thinking they're anxious, when they're actually tuned into the world's anxiety, thinking they're afraid, when they're absorbing the fear of the masses. The collective field influences, but it doesn't control. You still choose the frequency you align with. He started paying attention. In dense places, his energy would drop, but when he stayed centered, his field remained untouched. It was like standing in a muddy river without getting wet. His internal frequency became a silent shield, and more than that, a grounding anchor. Sometimes just his aligned presence was enough to shift the energy of the space around him, because a coherent frequency elevates the entire field. That's what the ancient masters used to do. They didn't preach, they didn't impose, they simply were, and just by being there, they altered the vibration of everything. Today, in a world drowning in noise, the challenge is greater, but also more necessary. To be a stable center amid chaos is to become a silent reordering point for the collective field, a clear mirror among broken ones. If you've ever felt your peace shift the energy of a room, even in silence, write, "I am a conscious vibrational center." Because awakening isn't just personal, it's contagious. Your coherence echoes, and it might just be the reminder someone else was waiting for, to return to their own center. He slowly began noticing something strange. Certain figures kept showing up in his life. The critic, the persecutor, the traitor, the savior. Different faces, same roles. It was as if the universe used recurring characters to reveal hidden patterns, archetypal ones. Each person wasn't just a person, they were also a symbolic mirror, an external representation of an unrecognized internal aspect. These encounters, often uncomfortable, exposed what was buried, a fear never acknowledged, a desire suppressed, a wound unresolved. And the field, wise and impersonal, placed these figures in his path not to punish him, but to wake him up. Because what goes unseen within shows up outside, and the universe will repeat it again and again until the lesson lands. He began mapping his symbolic reflections, realized the anger he felt towards someone was actually the mirror of his own denied powerlessness, that the envy that bothered him was an echo of his unlived potential, that the judgments that irritated him pointed to old wounds still bleeding. The other wasn't just a mirror, but an archetypal mirror. That discovery brought lightness. He stopped taking things personally, stopped reacting blindly. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" he started asking, "What is this trying to show me about myself?" And then life stopped feeling random and started feeling symbolic, stopped being a drama and became a map. If you've ever recognized a pattern in the people or situations that keep repeating and now realize it's a reflection from the inside out, write, "The symbol reveals me," because the universe speaks in symbols, and when you learn to listen, every detail of reality becomes a coded message from your own soul. He realized the universe didn't shout, it whispered. The most important messages never came as words, but as sensations, as synchronicities, as odd repetitions, as subtle discomforts. The field had always been speaking to him, but for the longest time, he only heard what could be explained. And the language of the field isn't logical, it's symbolic, it's vibrational, it's felt, not decoded. He started paying attention to details, to the music that played when his mind drifted, to the random words people said that struck him like secret messages, to how time would stretch or contract in certain places. All of it was vibrational communication. The field was responding. It always had. But now, he had stopped doubting and started listening with his whole body, not just his mind. The field also spoke through the body. a pain that appeared for no reason, fatigue that lined up with wrong decisions, a chill when he heard a truth, nausea in the face of a lie. He realized the body was the antenna, and the more in tune the center was, the clearer the signal became, and the more noise he carried, the more distorted the message. Clarity didn't come from outside, it came from inner stillness. This kind of listening didn't require effort, quite the opposite. It required surrender, letting go of control, letting go of the need to mentally understand everything. Because the mind wants formulas, but the field wants presence, the field wants vibrational truth. When he started trusting the feeling more than the explanation, everything realigned, and the universe began responding with an almost magical precision. If you've ever felt something didn't make sense but made sense, write in the comments. The field speaks before the mind understands, because that's exactly it. The field signals, warns, prepares, but only those willing to listen with their whole being, not just the ears of logic, can truly receive the message. Everything led back to the center, what seemed like a path outward, changing the world, controlling things, understanding others, was just a distraction from the true origin point. The center, always the center. That's where the frequency was born. That's where reality was shaped. And that's where he had to return. Not to find something new, but to remember what had always been there. The original coherence of being. He realized the frequency of the center didn't need to be built. It needed to be unblocked. Like a river dammed by mental stones, trauma, judgment, and expectation. When he stopped fighting himself, the current returned. When he no longer resisted what he felt, the field flowed. There was nothing to conquer, only something to remember. And at the center, remembering was inevitable. Reality around him began to shift, not because he forced it, but because he stopped radiating noise. His inner silence became fertile ground for new experiences. New people arrived, opportunities unfolded, even challenges came with clear purpose. Everything became symmetrical, as if the universe was finally responding to his true frequency, not the frequency of his wounds. Now he looked at life the way one gazes into a clean mirror. He knew that what showed up wasn't punishment or blessing, it was reflection. And that gave him power. Not the power to control everything, but the power to recalibrate his center whenever needed. There was no more struggle, only alignment. The field didn't need to be conquered, it needed to be understood. And wherever there was understanding, there was peace. If this journey resonated with you, if something awakened or became clearer, write in the comments. I live in the center that reflects truth, because this is the point of return. The moment you realize the universe isn't against you or for you, it is you. And everything you see is you, reflected in vibrational language. Everything begins and ends at the center.